Mark Anthony Peter, Sean Michael Small. We just had, and we have an interesting, this is a really, really nice show. We have an interesting segment for you all here. Joining us on set is author, and I would say first-time author, Crystal John. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And we are here talking about your first book,
Yes.
100 Pieces of the Heart. All right, and we have that image up there. Tell us about the book, and also I'm interested to find out, this is your first book.
Yeah.
So like, why?
There's a lot of whys. First off, I did not set out to write this book. Okay. So it just, it came about after me always wanting to write a book. However, because of my love for food, I wanted to actually do a cookbook.
Okay.
So I started and stopped, and a lot of different things happened. And one day I was actually sitting with two really good friends of mine, and we were talking. One of them is a book author, and I was saying to him, I want to write a book, but I just don't know how. And my other friend said to me, well, Crystal, maybe just do short pieces because that's what you liked. And at that time, I was going through a lot of emotions in my life. And I started to write the short pieces because it was more of a release for me. And it just, and then I was encouraged to share one or two on Facebook, which I did. And then people just started reaching out to me saying, Crystal, I didn't know you went through this. I also went through something similar. And it opened up a really great atmosphere for me to be able to help people through my stories. And I just continued. I did not know I was going to write 100 pieces. It just happened, and and it flowed, and whatever came to me, I used to just scribble 3 o'clock in the morning on a bill, everything, and then go back and write these pieces. And one day it just hit me, 100 pieces of the heart. And that was it. And my goal was to do 100 pieces. And then I just compiled it into one book.
Wow, and first of all, that's an amazing story. And that's usually how it goes. When you just start, you never know what it's going to end up being. But you just start and you have those 3 a.m. situations. Yeah. or even in the midst of things, you don't have your pad or your phone or anything, so you just write on whatever is available. But I'm now seeing here that it says 100 pieces of the heart. What breaks us also builds us. These are the pieces in between. Is that sort of the journey that you sort of took with this and all of the lessons learned through life?
Yes. So I grew up in a very broken home where my dad was there, but in the same breath, the home was just troubled, right? Where a lot of individuals, they go through those experiences. And my takeaway from that is I won't change anything because that is part of who I am, and that is what made me into the person that I am today, where I can sit here and share those stories and can also help persons, because in those brokenness is where you actually find yourself and find your journey, and it makes you stronger. So yes.
I mean, it's very interesting. I have never seen anything like this. I don't even think I know how to even begin to judge it, just perusing it. First of all, it is incredible that it's 100 different short stories. Each is on a very real emotional topic, and you're not buttering up anything. You're not cherry picking anything. It's very raw in the way how it kind of describes the emotions, the good and the bad, the good that comes with the bad. I think the second to last one especially had that. I can't remember the title. Forgive me, because there's 100 small stories, but it almost feels like each one is kind of like the introduction and conclusion to some profound movie or novel in and of themselves, and you just kind of get the core message in a very straightforward way that you could just pick up the book, find the title, and cut straight to that. And It's kind of weird because you would think, oh, well, it's just your experiences, but at the same time, it gives you just enough room to internalize it and think about it. And it's like, what about me? You know.
Is that what you were hoped for the book in terms of for those who read it?
Yes, so it is to be read from, although it's my experiences, it is supposed to be read from your lens. So you will find pieces that will resonate with you. So when you read it and you reread it, you are supposed to say, well, okay, you know what? I am going to take something positive because it's all about positivity, right? My son, I have a 14-year-old son, and one of the things that I have found in the Caribbean, we don't speak about a lot of things that we went through in life as parents to our kids. So like my mother, yes, I knew some of the things she went through, but I really don't know a lot of her struggles, a lot of her wins. And for me, I want my son to pick this up when he's ready. Yes, read this and also understand that I have been broken, I've loved, I've fallen, but I rose back up. And it is for him to also see that there is anything that can throw you down, it is a chance, right, for you to get up again.
Because I guess in a way, you not knowing, because I think this is true for my family as well. We don't know what the older generations went through, why they made certain decisions they made, and why we had these certain outcomes that we've had. And he could read this, and in your son's case, it's a more direct life lesson or life lessons. But even other people could read it, and it's not so specific. Yes, you kind of reveal bits and pieces of your life in various chapters, but it's not so specific to say, well, it's just a biography for the rest of us and it's life lessons for him. Right. You know, it's not that hard. It doesn't take a lot of effort to kind of read it and I guess because of the style of how you wrote it, to kind of start to internalize it, right? And it's positive, but it's not sugarcoating.
No, it's honest. It's honest, and I think one of the hardest things for any child to transition from mommy and daddy to who they are as people, right? But there is a little bit of, if I may, just sort of read a little bit. There's a chapter called.
The first chapter that caught his eye.
Of course.
What's the title?
Symphony of Touch, because symphony.
Of course.
All right, the intimate language of love. Now. This paragraph kind of stood out to me. In the ebb and flow of life, his positive energy becomes a lighthouse, guiding me through the storms with unwavering strength. It's a magnetic force that draws me closer, creating a sanctuary where worries dissipate and joy takes center stage. Now, anyone who has sort of been through any situation in life that has to do with love, and it doesn't just have to be romantic love, any sort of love, and also love of God. Right, this is the type of language that we can relate, right? Because in the storm, things don't always seem that it will sort itself out, right? What can you tell us about your journey in certain storms?
Well, I've had a lot of storms.
I mean, you could learn all about it in the book, because buy it. But just a little bit of what it has been like, sort of going through this song. Don't need any sort of details, but that,
one of the things I have learned and I stand by is anything, and I would have mentioned before, that would going through the storm. Now, by the way, it's funny that you chose that, because I am also on the path of getting my captain's license, right? And I like those. So I love being on the sea, right? Which is something that is very dear to me, right? That's my happy place. I grew up around the sea. And when I find myself in those storms, that's my happy place. That is my sanctuary. So I would envelope myself, right, in the ocean. And for me, when I get to that place, it's almost as if the storm is no longer there. Right? So I see the positives, and after the storm, there's always a calm, there's always a rainbow, there's always that calming of the sea. So, and that's what I look for and look forward to in my life.
Okay.
But there was something, because reading another part of that chapter, it came to me. One of the things I find is a common narrative is that modern younger people, right, they don't necessarily have realistic expectations of what relationships are. A lot of communication breakdowns because they're not speaking the same language, right? And of course, when the parents try to give them advice, 9 times out of 10, the parents are speaking a totally different language, right? And it's almost like if people don't know what's reasonable in relationships, at least too many. And it just came to me, here you are, it's through your lens. You're not necessarily telling people this is what relationships are, but you're saying this is what I went through, this is how I felt, and it's descriptive and it's expansive. So that it's almost like if it's two things. You're helping people put emotions in context because they could read and learn from your experiences. And then in a way, because I would advise potentially married couples, you could point to the book, right, and say, hey, this chapter and this chapter to help give you like a key in order to decode your emotions to each other. Because it potentially gives you, if you don't know how to translate it into English language, it gives you the words, right, to try to translate those emotions, whether it's, I assume parents, child relationships, intimate partner relationships, you know, and I think a lot of people, as you said, we kind of want to shelve things and not talk about it. I think part of it is because we don't know how. Yes. We don't know how to describe it.
And this is hopefully the starting point for us to start having these
conversations
with each other.
It's like Rosetta Stone. Human emotions.
Now, I would have mentioned often you had a book launch a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Now, how did it go? How was it?
It was one of the most amazing things that I've ever experienced. The outpouring of love and support. It was, I mean, I can't even explain the amount of people who showed up, right? I have to say thanks to them. My book launch was not a regular book launch. It was a congregation. It was a start of a journey, and I would say it's more like a community where after the book launch, so we shared pieces. I had various persons would read a piece that speak to them, and then they shared what was their takeaway. What was very interesting was after the book launch, the entire area, everyone just started to share their own stories. And that is what I wanted. I remember just standing there and looking around, and people who did not have any communication with each other before, they just started to talk to each other, started to share, I went through this, and it just opened up that whole atmosphere, and that is what I want, that journey. It's more of a movement that I want people to be able to speak up, right? This is who I am. I remember I have a piece that I wrote on suicide, right? Now again, this came from a conversation I was having with my son, and we heard a radio. They were talking about men's mental health. And I decided to share with him that my very first boyfriend, he's no longer with us, but he committed suicide. And obviously it was a very heavy topic for us to discuss, because you're talking about a 13-year-old boy. But it was funny again because of the way we communicated. Now my son and I, we have a very playful relationship at times, but I had to tell him because he joked about it after, but also understanding the seriousness of mental health and being able to open and speak to people. But I did it in such a way where I was able to tell him, well, listen, he had the same last name as I had, and his sister had the same exact name, Crystal John, right, as me, and I gave him all of, and he jokingly said, well, Mommy, you were with your brother, right? I'm going to tell everyone.
Right. Well, this is just kind of a
yes.
of the information. No, I totally get that.
So it was quite funny, but it was very serious, you know, and then he came back a couple of days after, and, you know, and we had that conversation. Now, granted, parents won't usually have those conversations, but it's a conversation I want to have with my son because, one, he's a young man, and there would be a lot of different things happening, and especially around men and their mental health as well. And we as women, we take it for granted.
Right. Now, you would have, as you're saying here, like people who write books, we always say they're storytellers, but it seems as though you're story sharing.
Yes.
Right? And then it also allows other people to share their stories as well, and it builds this community. And I think that's one of the things that we tend to take for granted a lot of times is community, right? And you mentioned in the book launch, everybody just started sharing, right? So it felt like a movement, and it almost felt like a community was forming. What is your hope for people that read this book? Can they experience some level of healing? Can they experience some level of being at peace with themselves, being at peace with their relationships? What is the goal that you hope for people when they read this book?
Well, yes, it's supposed to render some level of healing because, again, as I said, we go through things and we go through things in isolation, not realizing that a lot of people share the same or very similar stories, and we beat up on ourselves a lot. So yes, it is healing, and also for people to be able to open up and also share their stories to help one another. So that is my hope. It's not that we are just going through life and we feel that we are alone. We are not alone.
For sure, absolutely.
I mean, I want to go to a more fundamental question and just ask, you know, are we, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but are we in Trinidad and Tobago too closed off emotionally? Because we allow a lot of things to go unsaid, right? And as you say, we share a lot of experiences, but we're not willing or able to share them with each other, right? And the parallel experiences are unknown. It's almost like if it's a secret, we dare not let it be out. For men, it's because we have to be men and we can't let the emotions out. And I technically don't ascribe to that while also being closed off and private. And at times, it's a very hypocritical. But I do wonder, is society just too closed off? And it's almost like, because on other shows on the network, we lament we lost the village to raise the community, to help keep the community together. And maybe that's why when we lost the village, we also lost our emotional connection.
Yes, I agree. And it is something that I have been having conversations around with my close friends. And I don't think it's only in Trinidad. I think it's in the Caribbean. Men, especially boys, they can't show emotions almost because as parents, we tend to say, well, why are you crying? Are you a girl? And, you know, and we chastise. So they keep everything in and they don't know how to share. So when you hear a man tell another man, hey, brother, I love you, it says, oh my God, you know, what is this? But we should be able to help each other express ourselves, right? Let us open up again, right, in society, because I think that's where we're losing. And, you know, we have a lot of crime that are happening. And it's because a lot of the young boys, when you speak to the young boys, they aren't loved when they gravitate to a gang. It's because that's where they feel love. Yes.
Yes.
But dare I ask though, because usually young men, we're starting technology, what about the young ladies? Are they fine or?
No, because bullying it's something big. So I'll give you a story. I have always loved writing, and because of the school that I went to Mucurapo Junior and Senior Secondary. I remember one time I did an exam and I got 90-something%, and everybody else got under 30%, and I was looked down on, and I did not want to be bullied. So what I started to do, I started to dumb down my marks. Right, yes.
Yeah.
So I actually hid sometimes to write. You know, I would hide, you write, and then I would throw it in the river, you know, or in a,
Yeah, no, that's quite, it's actually more common than you think, because this sort of bullying and the sort of looking down upon people, it's not gender specific,
Yes.
right? And if anything, if you stand out in any way from the norm of what they consider the norm, it's going to be a thing. So just as we wrap up though, first of all, it's been great having you on. Just as we wrap up, where can people find the book?
So right now it's on Amazon. My book is not in any bookstores just yet because I'm carefully curating where I want to have it. Because again, my book is not supposed to be on any bookshelf, just regular bookshelf you go, right? It's supposed to be interactive. It's supposed to be, you know, that community based. So I meet, you know, and a lot of my sales so far has been people just seeing me, asking me, what is that? You know, having conversation and just organically buying that book.
Right.
So I wanted to be I wanted to be carefully curated, but it is going to be in a lot of the coffee shops, right? Yes. Right, and it is on Amazon right now. Other than this, there's also a journal that is called The Companion, which goes with the actual book. And that is supposed to be for the person after they read the book to share their stories.
Share their stories.
Yes.
Okay, this is great. So the community building and the story sharing continues.
Continues, yes.
All the way. So this has been absolutely great to have you on.
Thank you.
I hope that we did a great job. Because I just feel like I'm just watching a TED Talk right now and I'm just getting inspired all of the time.
Oh.
So thank you so much. And I would say there is a chapter entitled TNT Carnival.
Yes.
So I'm excited to read that one, right?
And I'll just say, usually, I'm not the kind of person to easily read nonfiction books unless it's on a very specific set of topics that I enjoy reading. Mainly because they're not always easy to read, but this is very easy to read in terms of reading comprehension. Now the question is, are you going to have the courage to maybe face what you find reading the words and what it might reveal very, very simply? And again, it's a part of the reason why it's easy to read is it's in very easily digestible chapters. It doesn't take a lot of commitment to get to the main point of each chapter's point. It only just takes the willingness now to kind of internalize what you're reading and truly nourish your soul with it.
Yes. So
You'll have
read
me
it.
excited.
Read it.
I mean, you're the one that had a therapy session on national TV.
And yes, I had it on national TV. I told people, yes, I go to therapy. It's fine. We're all broken in some way, but we accept the help and we say it publicly. I shared my story about my trust issues.
I am not yet able to share myself with other people. You think I could share myself with my subconscious? I need to sleep at night. Come
Anyway,
on. I am not that brave. Yes, do as I said, not as I do in this case.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk to him about that after. Anyway, Crystal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you again.
It has been great having you on, and I wish you all of the success with your book and your future writings, because I'm sure there'll be much more to come after.
Given this, and the unique format and presentation and subject matter and style and everything and style. I am just like, I want to see the next follow-up. Just that part of my brain is like, I just want to know what the follow-up would be.
Absolutely.
The sequel.
Trinidad and Tobago, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Breakthrough right here on WESN Content Capital. Mark Anthony, Peter, Sean Michael Small. Have a good week. Bye-bye.